too bad. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, while I set this up here, rotate it around if it'll let me. There we go, that's better. So now let's see if I can put this on somewhere where I can have some light, ladies and gentlemen, and you can all see me, and I won't be too dark. Let's see here. Let's see, can we set it right here? Or am I going to be too dark? Oh, no. This time I just found the spot, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me here. I want to make sure you can see me and the courthouse if we can. Oh, I'm too dark. Look at how dark I am. See? Well, I guess we'll just have to hold it, ladies and gentlemen. There's not going to be a spot that's going to let me rest my thing down and hold the phone up at the same time. So we're just going to have to improvise, if you will. Hey, everybody. Cameraman here. Today is October 26th. It's about 10 a.m. outside here live at the Butte County Courthouse. Just wanted to give you guys all an update regarding some of the cases I've been following here at the courthouse. We are almost at the end of the month here in October, and we've got about 2 months left in the entire year. And there's only a few cases I have, so far anyways, that are scheduled left to be called in 2022. The rest of the matters I have are all getting pushed out towards 2023 and beyond. So right now, as well, we'll talk about, I dropped my little cheat sheet, I got a whole list of my case numbers here. But basically, the oldest case I'm dealing with right now is set to go up for trial next in December, is the matter of People v. Edwards. And this is a matter where a former sheriff's deputy of the Butte County Sheriff's Department had some guns. No problem. There's nothing wrong with owning guns in this country. He has more than most people, I would say, but, that's not a crime. And the issue is that, don't quote me 100% on California gun law, because it's wacky, it's always changing, and it's a lot of bullshit, in my opinion. With that being said, at the end of 2018 or something, there were some laws about some stuff being changed on firearms. Basically, it boils down to them saying he had a part or didn't have a part, and his guns were in compliance. And the thing is, they give you a time period to be in compliance, and he didn't have to comply until a certain date. And so until that date till that date came, he was in compliance. So they went ahead and arrested this guy before that date came, so technically he was still in compliance when they arrested him for these gun violations. And so here it is, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. This is a 4-year-old matter that's been continued out. And one of the main reasons is, appears that Mike Ramsey has some personal vendetta against this sheriff dating way back into the 90s, and that's kind of why he's being prosecuted. But I'll divulge more on that when I report more on that case, because that whole story can be a video in and of itself that certainly I don't have the time here today to tell. The next matter is one that's up for sentencing, which you may be familiar of if you're a regular viewer of my channel, the matter of People versus Kyle Wilde. I did a couple-hour-long video with him talking about some motions he filed in court regarding his case. He went ahead and took a plea deal and pled no contest. Now, I don't agree with the plea deal. I think it's just a scam to get people to agree so the DA doesn't have to spend money and go to trial and potentially lose, which is mainly what this courthouse is built upon, convincing people to find themselves guilty and take a deal and not actually risk going to trial. Now he was supposed to be sentenced a couple months ago, and unfortunately there was a delay in getting some paperwork to the court, so they continued that out. Then most recently now he's been placed on quarantine in his cell pod. I shouldn't say cell, it's really a pod, really it is a giant cell. They call it a pod, but when you put 40 people in there with bunks and they're all in one locked room, it's just a bigger prison at that point. Unfortunately, they're all on quarantine, and that last court date he was still on quarantine for the COVID, and it's been continued out again, so hopefully this next upcoming date in November, he'll be sentenced, and I can report finally the outcome of that case. The next matter I have is the matter of People versus Zuccolillo. That's tomorrow, actually, at 1:30 here at the Butte County Courthouse. If you're familiar with that case, that's a matter here in Butte County where a former tongue-tied, not a city dice. What is a city dice? Maybe Las Vegas city dice? I don't know. A city council member for the city of Paradise, the former vice mayor, actually, back in 2020, was charged with some possession of child pornography, I believe it boils down to. No, I'm sorry. I mean, it is a pornography charge because he sent images of himself to a supposed minor. But the whole issue about this case, ladies and gentlemen, is that supposed minor is a fake person. And actually, there was a person behind the account pretending to be a minor, but this alleged victim, this alleged minor, doesn't exist. It's just a fake profile created by someone who had a property dealing with Mr. Zuccolillo, and apparently that deal didn't go as well as he wanted it to, and they ended up having a falling out. And at some point in that falling out, it caused this gentleman to decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and create a fake account and get this guy to basically send him pictures of his penis. And the Butte County District Attorney took that, and I'm going to set this down, ladies and gentlemen. My arms are getting tired holding this. Let me see if I can adjust it so you can see me in the light here, not just a dark silhouette. Doesn't really help that I'm wearing all black today. But basically, the district attorney came in and told the guy, said, hey, stop it. You're not law enforcement. Let us take over the case. And so then they took over the case, and Mr. Zuccolillo allegedly continued to send explicit material to the pretend person, the alleged minor, and so he was thusly charged as such. And we were supposed to go to trial a few months ago, but his defense filed a motion. They needed time to, I guess, rule on that motion, so it got continued out even longer. And so tomorrow we're on for hearing, and I guess we're going to set some new trial dates and see how that progresses. But it's really a weird case because, well, one, this whole topic of, Chris Hansen type investigations of people are becoming very popular nowadays, especially on YouTube with all of these channels, predator poachers and hunters and whatnot coming along and exposing, in my opinion, legitimate people that have legitimate, problems with trying to meet minors underage. This is a very severe problem, and it needs more light shed on it. And the problem is, though, because the cops want to say, well, because you're not law enforcement, we can't take this case. You did. So it doesn't change the fact that somebody's sending explicit material or attempting to meet an underage minor. The law is still the same. There was even a district attorney in Texas. Look up district attorney predator. There was a district attorney in Texas that was sending explicit messages to a person he believed to be a minor. And then when they showed up to arrest him, he killed himself. So anybody can be a predator. It's a serious issue. But when law enforcement doesn't want to take that issue seriously, it becomes a matter of public interest, especially when they want to pick and choose certain cases. Like, in my opinion, if this was just some random person that somehow got this man to send messages, I don't believe the district attorney would be inclined to take the case. But because the fact that this was a property dispute, and then this man impersonating a minor to get the person to send him explicit messages, and then ran to the DA's office and said, hey, looky what I got. It doesn't seem that this is like good policing, if you will. But that doesn't change the fact of the matter that he still believed that he was sending explicit messages to a minor that he was hoping to meet for sex. So two wrongs don't make a right here. The issue I see is the fact that this is going to be all paid for at taxpayers' expense. Another case that we have coming up here soon is this December is the matter of People v. Rogers. I've mentioned it a couple times on my channel briefly, not too much in detail, but this is a sexual allegation case that's dating well past a decade, and the only real evidence, if you even want to call it evidence, that the DA has is just statements made from people, um, from decades ago. It's basically their word versus his word, not really any physical proof, or, it's not like they got DNA evidence or a photograph of him in the act or anything. It's just words. But because he's a black man in Butte County, they want to put him away for 63 years based on words. And if you're a resident here in Butte County, or just someone that goes to the Butte County Courthouse a lot like I do, you'll know that here in Butte County, black people are not treated fairly. I don't think it's right. I think it's ridiculous, the amount of white cases I've seen in this courthouse for the same sort of crimes the black man is being charged for. They've been treated not as harshly, been offered better deals, this county is, not the greatest when it comes to treatment at the courthouse. I don't know what you would call per se a really good deal, but when I see two people with the same sort of crimes, one's being, trying to be put away for lesser time, and the other's trying to be put away for double the time for the same, alleged crime, something's not adding up here. And how I pretty much got involved with this case is this gentleman knows a gentleman that I know, and he asked me if I could try and call a phone number for him, basically because there was some iffiness about whether or not this phone was not working because of the 5G being upgraded in the area, which I now know was just most likely a lie, because the district attorney here in Butte County, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any form of family support, friends, whatever it may be, if you get in jail, in custody, they will do everything in their power to cut that family of support. They don't want you to get money on your books. They don't want anybody to come and testify in your support. Any sort of allies you think you had are not going to be there anymore. This district attorney will find any way he can to get people not to talk to you anymore, to drop off of your case. Believe it, folks. It's sort of like the back the blue until it happens to you. Most people I've talked to, I've been here since about, well over 2 years now, and I've known people I talked to when I first started this, started my investigations in this county, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, that say, nah, that don't happen here. And then a couple, see them a little while later, they, hey, cameraman, you were right. A lot of this stuff around here is pretty corrupt. I tried to tell you, tried to say, hey, I'm not trying to be like, hey, I told you so, but I warned you now, didn't I? I warned you. I gave you a fair warning. I don't say I didn't warn you. And that's what this county does. It breaks you down physically, mentally, any way it can. I've got people fucking 5 counties away, that were offering support services on this case. And then a week went by with no communication, and then another week, and then another week. And then finally, I got communication back saying that, oh, well, due to their busy schedule, they can't provide services anymore in this case. Really? Even though you were not busy for the past 3 months that you were providing services on this case, all of a sudden, now you're not able to do that anymore. Can you say Mike Ramsey? But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's just an example of what I'm talking about here. So, family, yeah, so basically, he asked me to just, hey, can you reach out to my friend and make sure their phone is actually not working? Or, basically show, hey, they're screwing with me. And yeah, they were screwing with this guy. And then I started going over there and establishing this link of communication between the, this friend, if you will, and now the issue is that the alleged victim in this case also knows this friend. But this alleged victim I was in their presence, and they stated to the, alleged, victimizer, the guy who's in jail, the victim said, hey, I'm totally against what you're doing. You never did anything to me. I don't know why they're doing this. You know, this is, basically fraud. And this person in my presence pretty much said, hey, they're not a victim, and they're against, um, the prosecution's handling of this case and treatment of this man. And then fast forward a couple months, I get a call from the guy in the jail, and he said, hey, cameraman, I just got this supplemental report handed to me from the district attorney's office, and your name is in it 33 times. 33 times? What could they possibly saying I did that they named me 33 times? Well, they said you went over there and harassed this alleged victim 7 days in a row and demanded a recorded interview. I did? Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. They went and rehabilitated this witness to then say that I, the cameraman, harassed him 7 days in a row at 7 o'clock in the morning, demanding a recorded interview, which already happened. I already recorded his statement, so it already happened. For him to say that I was there demanding an interview for something that I already did is non sequitur. And two, his lie was so bad, because one of these days that he was saying, a whole week, so basically, from, let's just say a Monday to the next following Monday. Well, a weekend had to pass. And on one of these alleged days that this victim said I was harassing them 7 days in a row, well, how can I be at their house at 7 o'clock in the morning when I have to be at the Butte County Jail at 7 o'clock in the morning to sign in for someone who has visitation at 7:30 because they're on, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? For those who've been in jail, when you go in jail and you break the rules, and then you don't get solitary, but I think it's ag segregation, administrative segregation, as they call it. So he's got the early bird special visiting time, as I call it. So I have a sheet. I got to sign in with my name and present my driver's license. So how can I be at the jail and at his house at 7 o'clock in the morning, both at the same time? It cannot happen. And so I take these, concerns and go to the police, not the police, but the sheriff's department, because they're the ones who have jurisdiction over this matter, and say, hey, look it, your alleged victim said I'm over there harassing him 7 days in a row. First off, why am I not charged and in custody right now for a felony 136, harassing, intimidating, or dissuading a witness in a criminal case? Two, if that's not the case and he's not to be believed, that's why I'm not charged, why isn't he charged with 148.5 of the Penal Code for knowingly making a false report to a law enforcement agency that I'm committing a crime when he knows that I'm not committing a crime? And my response to that, ladies and gentlemen, from the sheriff's department was, well, it appears you have something. Well, let me correct myself, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to that, he said, their job at the sheriff's department is to find the truth. And it appears I have something different from what they have. So I need to take everything, write it all down in a report, and submit it to us. And then we'll take a look at it. And I did that, ladies and gentlemen. I did that exactly 1 year ago in October. I think it was October 14th, if the date was correct. So it's been 1 year since I did exactly what they said, wrote it all down in a report, submitted it to the sheriff's department for them to consider charging him, and I never received a response to that report. Not from the district attorney, not from the sheriff's department, not nobody. So it's okay, I guess, to go and make false accusations and report them to the sheriff's department, and as long as, it's not true, nothing's going to happen, Not the fact that you wasted our time, and there's a specific penal code that says that if you do that, it's a misdemeanor, but that's okay. We're going to let it slide so long as you continue to cooperate in this case. I mean, no one's deliberately told me that that's what they're doing, ladies and gentlemen, but that's the only logical reason why they're not charging their witness in their case for lying, is because they feel that if they do that, they're not going to get cooperation from their witness. Or they told them, look, you either cooperate with us or we charge you. And that's kind of how they grab people by the balls around here, you know? So pretty much, if it weren't for the fact that their witness went and lied about me, I wouldn't have become ironclad in this case as I am now, because I was just basically helping the guy out with some property-related issues and some other things that, you can't take care of when you're in custody. And that's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a storage unit, bills to pay, if you're in custody, you're going to lose everything. If you're not going to be cited and released or, let out within a couple days, if you're in there for a month, be prepared to start losing your house, your property, everything, except the clothes that you came in on. So, if it weren't for the fact that they had their witness start lying about me, I wouldn't be ironclad in that case. So, that's supposed to go to trial coming up here in December. We'll see if it goes to trial. We'll see if we don't get another continuance. It is what it is. But this man is representing himself, and for, I must say, a pro per defendant in Butte County. He's doing an excellent job. I've seen some other pro pers that aren't as intelligent and articulate when they get up on the stand, if you will, but this man definitely knows his shit. And I'm rooting for him for a 100% not guilty all the way. Now, the next case, another case that I dealt with here today, is the Hutchins matter. Now, for viewers of my channel, you may remember that last December I went live at a shooting call in Thermalito. Evidently, that turned out to be a man. Mr. Hutchins allegedly shot another man. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but I do know his name. I got it. I pretty much go past that. There's a little memorial in front of the residence. I see that on a pretty frequent basis. So it's like it happened in my neighborhood. It's like I live not too far away from that incident. It's like, I don't know the person directly, but I've been around, it's like in, traveling in my neighborhood. That's one of the houses, I've known, it's like I know, pretty much a good 2-3 mile radius everywhere around my neighborhood. So, when I heard about that call, went down there, went live. Evidently, the shooting took place, and what's being alleged here in court was that this was a matter of self-defense. Now, I'm not really rooting for any side in this. I'm indifferent about the matter. My issue, or whichever you want to call it, is that we have a case, and then we have the Butte County District Attorney. Now they're trying to spin a narrative. Now, when I first started investigating this case, is on the court level, because not everything I film on the street always ends up in the courtroom. I was mainly investigating this as to find out, well, what was the motive regarding this incident. And there was a preliminary hearing about a week and a half ago, I want to say now, and this witness, who is Spanish-speaking, is their predominant language. English is their second. Nothing wrong with that. They had to get an interpreter. I cannot say some of these big words right now, ladies and gentlemen. An interpreter basically questioned the witness, if you will. The DA asks the question, the interpreter repeats it to the witness gives their answer, and then they speak to the interpreter. And so it was basically everything being answered through her. And it appeared the gentleman kept saying the same story over and over again. Freezing a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, unless we're freezing up. Let's see. Might hurry up and end it. Might be burning up some memory here, ladies and gentlemen, but getting a little lag spike there. But this person kept saying the same story over and over and over again. And it was very clear by this gentleman's testimony that he was coached. And because I want to say, not that it's really his fault. I mean, if you coach somebody in English and all they understand is Spanish, it's going to probably be hard for the script. Um, his testimony just fell apart the more and more he was questioned, and some of it was just plain out weird. At one point, he said he heard the shooting, he went outside, he saw his friend that was shot on the ground, apparently then just swept the porch that he came out on, and then went back inside and continued to eat breakfast. Now, maybe that was true, but I find it a little odd that you hear a shooting, come outside of your residence to investigate the shooting, see a person that you know as your friend lying face down on the ground, don't think anything of it, take a moment to sweep the dirt off of your porch because it's a little dirty, and then go back inside and eat breakfast when clearly there's somebody that appears to be in a bad way laying face down on the ground. But that's what he testified to. Found it very strange, very weird, and the fact too is, well, he had to correct himself because he said he ate breakfast, then he said, well, actually, I swept my porch, then went in and ate breakfast, as the interpreter relayed that his answer was. So I'm starting to have some doubts about this case being, as bad as the district attorney made it out to be. Like, this is just some, he broke into the house, or just, this is somebody that just entered a dwelling and shot a person. Now, there seems to be some more to this that they're not letting on to, because, as it should be no surprise to anybody, ladies and gentlemen, the district attorney of Butte County spins a narrative. That's how he makes money. That's how he's able to be the district attorney of Butte County for over 40 years, ladies and gentlemen, over 40 years. Mike Ramsey, I'll have you note, is the longest standing district attorney in the state of California and the entire United States. Makes you really wonder how he got that way. And unopposed, too. Last two elections, nobody runs against him. Nobody runs against the sheriff either. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, so that's that case. Another case, I haven't really talked to the gentleman as far as how much he wants it public knowledge, but we'll just call it the sparks will fly matter. It's a reference to the person. They'll know it because, sparks. So in the sparks that will fly matter, I'll call that, is basically a child neglect case, and it boils down to the fact that this man, like most men I see, try to be a good father. Not all men out there are perfect fathers, but like most men, I like to think he tries to be a good dad, and he is a good dad in my opinion. The problem is sometimes the people that we choose to have children with aren't always the most greatest of people. And the problem is that this man is out earning a living, money so he can provide for his family. His significant other, if you will, decided to consume some marijuana. Now, that's not the problem. Marijuana is legal in the state, last time I checked, for recreational and medical. Okay, that's not the issue. The problem is after consuming that marijuana, she left the device in which she used to consume said marijuana out. Now these children are like, knee height. They're not very tall, It's not like they're going to be able to reach at the top of the bookcase to get, mommy's bong and take a hit, if you will. But the issue is that mommy decided to get in a fight with the husband's mother, if you will. So domestic violence occurred. The person who was being victimized by the mother of the children, if you will, called the police, or I should, police, well, that's what I mean. They're saying is you call the police, and like most people, unfortunately come to realize when they call the police, you think if you're being beaten on by somebody, calling the police is going to actually make the situation better and help you. Well, actually, it can't. There's no situation that cannot be made humanly worse by the presence of a police officer. And unfortunately, instead of getting help, they got hassled. So she called, sheriff shows up, arrests the baby mama for, domestic violence. Then, the dad comes home because baby mama called saying, oh my God, your mom, blah, 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 hurry, come quick. And, he came home to see what was going on. Keep in mind, he was at work, working. He comes home, and the sheriff arrests him and say, we're arresting you for child endangerment. How can you get arrested for child endangerment when you weren't here? And their allegation is the child endangerment is that, because the bong was left out, they had access to marijuana, and one of the children tested positive for THC in their system. Well, that can be a magnitude of things. I'm not happy to know that there was a test positive for THC, but that doesn't necessarily mean, per se, this kid was, like, given an injection of pot or is taking hits from the bong or, deliberately have smoke blown in their face. Okay, for all I know, the mother was breastfeeding at the time, and, she had THC in her milk, and, because that can happen too. Okay, I mean, for all I know, there could have been some lingering smoke in the air, and that attached to the child's hair. That can happen that way. And so that's the whole issue, is they're alleging that they, tested positive for THC, but yet haven't really been forthcoming with producing that test for positivity either. And so they basically took these kids for a couple months, gave them back, after a long period. And the main thing is this thing went to court originally as a felony, and then they dropped it. And then a few months later, after all this CPS stuff was next to near over with, they came back and basically sent them a thing in the mail saying, oh yeah, we're going to charge you now with a misdemeanor child endangerment. So instead of it being a felony, we're now going to do a misdemeanor. So basically starting the whole case over again. And that's basically how Mike Ramsey in Butte County works. This county is the #1 exporter of children in California. And what I mean by exporter, as in the adoption services, they're the #1 county when it comes to taking kids and rehoming them. It's like big business for this county, and they're not just gonna drop things and let you go. They'll give you the false impression that, oh yeah, we'll be good for a couple months, and then they'll come back in the mail and recharge you. Because what's the word I'm looking for? Child neglect, if you will, is not only is it wrong, but it's also big business. And the problem is that the cases where children are truly being neglected, this seems to be a case, in my opinion, where, well, because honestly, this is a case where the cops were just tired of dealing with domestic violence. And instead of arresting the person that they should have arrested, they took it out on the entire family to hope that they don't get called again. Because this is a case where there's been prior domestic violence at this resident because of the alleged, mother's actions of picking fights with the family. Now, that's their business. I personally think that there should be a separation between the two, and, one, have a finalized custody agreement and work things out, truly, and decide whether or not these people are going to live together, be together. Dr. Phil, I'm not a marriage counselor. That's not really my department. But, regardless of what their issues are, that's not an excuse as law enforcement to say, well, I'm tired of doing my job. I'm going to arrest everybody because I'm just tired of coming up here. Well, that's bad policing. And that puts 2 innocent lives, had nothing to do with this situation because of their parents' problem. A system that's designed to exploit them, not cater to them, and just make money off them. They don't care if these children get a good future in their system. They just want that $52,000 a month to pay them bills. And if you get 3 kids, $52,000 times 3, which this foster woman that had these kids, she had 3 kids, so that's, these 2 at the time plus the one she has, that's a good chunk of money coming in. I wouldn't want to let that go either, but, I know I'm going to be able to sleep good at night knowing that I'm not making money off of robbing families of their children, And so, basically, this case has just boils down to the fact that Butte County Sheriff's Department's incompetence at properly enforcing the law, their records keeping, because that's another issue in this case. They apparently have body cam footage that can't be found. The little that they do have doesn't really capture anything, and then there's some that apparently is corrupted, I think. So there's a corruption issue, a link expired or something. So there's that. We also have an issue here of this, from what I understand is everywhere in California, is this child welfare system of profiting off of children in foster homes, which is a big money making operation, which I've come to find out by working this case and looking into cases relating to what happens when kids get taken into CPS, and it's really a big scam. It's really a big money operation, and the real people, the real children that are abused and neglected, fall between the cracks, because the reality is it's more profitable to keep dragging somebody to court on a misdemeanor charge over and over and over again to get them to plead to a plea deal than it is to actually take somebody to trial on a criminal matter, a felony, especially when they know that this person is maybe of the poor caliber, so they may not be able to hire the greatest attorney here. And then 2, they they won't get it. That's with the whole attorney thing. They may not get the legal representation they want, so they feel that they're going to have to take a plea deal. That's on the person's part, so that's another reason they don't want to go to trial. Another reason why I don't want to go to trial too is it costs about $19,999 to go to trial. So that's an expense that they're going to have to, that's an expense. That's not something they're going to make money off. That's an expense if they go to trial. Going to trial costs money. Not going to trial doesn't cost money. And, it keeps them, happy. Because they can just say, hey, let's continue it out. All right, let's go to trial, and force somebody to go in a position that they don't want to, or just say, hey, take the plea deal. But from what I see, if you don't waive time and you really force the DA to go to trial when they're not prepared, and you're prepared, you got a case. But if you just let it continue out, that's what the DA wants, to just continue it out to wear you down. And so they'd rather you just take a deal, not go to trial. And then too, all around, there's a strong chance that they could win, and there's a strong chance that they can lose. But mainly lose because of their, practices of, witnesses not being able to be found, testimony, all sorts of things to, say, hey, they did a bad job. But if you don't have somebody that's competent, and you get somebody competent that's a drunken pretender that just comes in there with a butcher knife and just chops your case up, and then, does crazy shit like Michael Rooney, a day before trial, files a motion to change venue. Like, really? You really think the day of trial, where we've got jury getting pulled in the jury room, we're going to grant a change of venue motion, and then it gets denied, and then you charge the person $10,000? That's absurd. So there's that. So I don't know how this case per se is going to go, but it's really exposed, a process in this county that just goes to show that these people that take your children don't have any best interest in children at all. Their best interest is filling that checking account with money. Now, another case we had today, Mr. Coleman. For those who have been following my channel, Mr. Coleman earlier this year shot up a Greyhound bus. Tried to go the insanity plea, but it appears that he's going to be competent to stand trial. And for those who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, just because the court finds you insane, that doesn't mean, the court's definition of insane and insane are two different things, come to find out. The court's insanity only cares if you're competent enough to understand what's happening in court and if you're competent enough to sit there and listen to all that stuff. That's pretty much what they determine whether or not you're competent in court, is if you can listen to the proceedings and participate or not. Him being insane at the alleged time of the incident, that's a whole different, insanity. But it appears he's competent to stand trial, and they're going to be proceeding, it appears, with trial in January. Now, we had a case on, his case was on today for status, and it'll be on again in December for case management, and then it'll be decided in December whether or not they'll vacate or still continue with the set trial dates. But at this time, it appears, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, the district attorney's office is going to go ahead with trial in January. Mike Ramsey himself is personally presiding over this case, so I don't believe he's going to delay it any further. I haven't really seen any continuances in this case. Mr. Ramsey has been pretty proactive on making sure every date, goes, there's, no continuance. It seems that he, and this is too, the only case I've seen so far in my 2 years of being at this courthouse where the district attorney himself has personally presided over, other than one of his deputy district attorneys. But him himself, he seems to have a pretty special interest in this case. So I don't see it being dilly-dallied any longer. So should expect trial in January. We have another matter. This is probably the first of me talking about it. This is going to be the Vanessa Santana. It's I think that's her first name, Vanessa. But well, from my understanding, this woman, she's related to a known public defender in this courthouse named Jesse Santana, which a lot of people told me they think is odd that he's not representing her. It could be because, family member relations, but that hasn't stopped people who have attorneys representing people before. But it's not so much the fact that he's not representing her, it's the fact that they have one of the worst attorneys you could ever hire in this courthouse, Michael Rooney, on her case. So a lot of people that are familiar with her and the family and know the case told me they're a little bit shocked that Rooney is handling the matter. And this matter, ladies and gentlemen, is a Oroville police matter, which stems from an incident earlier this year. 2 Oroville police officers recognized this woman who had at the time prior warrants out for her arrest. So they recognized her because they knew she had a warrant out for her arrest. They attempted to pull her over, and she took off. They engaged in a pursuit which ended up going through residential areas. And during this pursuit, this woman got into an accident, a motor vehicle accident with another vehicle, which had a 5-year-old boy in the car, and he was injured to the point where he sustained head trauma. And that upset a lot of members in the community where this chase happened. And so the public interest where I'm coming in is the fact of the matter is Oroville police admitted that they knew who this woman was and engaged in pursuit, and that pursuit ended up having an innocent member of the public injured. So my thing is, we got to wait for trial. I was hoping to hear a little more details potentially in preliminary hearing, because I'm sure officers will testify. We're going to go to trial now, which is scheduled for next year in January, I believe, too. Was Oroville police justified in continuing this pursuit? I have Oroville police's pursuit policy. I've read their policy, so I know what their policy entails. The issue is whether or not that they should have continued with the pursuit, and if they were acting in policy. Because Oroville police will not release their reports. They will not release their body cam footage to me. So I have no way of, cross-referencing their policy with their actions because they will not release their actions that they documented in their body cam footage or reports because of the fact of the matter of it being an ongoing investigation. So I have to sit in court to find out any details. So eventually, if we go to trial and I find out or get reports or body cam footage to say, hey, whether or not Oroville police were reckless in that chase, I will not know because, for all I know, they could have decided after, 10 minutes of chasing her, well, hey, we're going to back off, and then 5 minutes later, then the accident happened. I don't know. And I won't know until either we go to trial and hear some testimony from Oroville police, or the case is resolved and I'm able to get the reports because it's no longer an active investigation. But till that happens, ladies and gentlemen, I can't say for sure whether or not Oroville police acted recklessly in that manner. I do know is that there's a 5-year-old boy that now has brain damage and is struggling from that. From what I saw in the Facebook posts, he's recovered, but there's side effects from brain trauma. That's not something that can be fixed with a good night's sleep, because this woman decided to run from the police. It just baffles me, ladies and gentlemen, in this day and age when we have radios, helicopters, all this stuff, people still try and run from police. And more often than not, they affect innocent people by what they do, and they don't care. And so, regardless of whatever happens in this case, if she gets, a fine, guilty, or whatever, with Looney Rooney, I don't think it's right that she's got Looney Rooney, because he's going to do a shit job, as he's done with all the other cases I've seen him do. She's guilty. That's one of the facts of the matters, is like, look, you can't get into a police chase and be blasted all over social media by multiple people saying, hey, that was you doing it, and then go in court and be like, Your Honor, that was not me. It's like, look, I'm all for innocent until proven guilty, ladies and gentlemen, but, if you're photographed with your hand in the cookie jar, and it's clearly you putting your hand in the cookie jar, front and center, and you just say, well, that's not me, Your Honor, that's my doppelganger, double clone, it's like, you're just making yourself look stupid at that point. I don't know about all these other charges, but as far as running from the cops go, I'm most certain beyond a reasonable doubt that she is guilty and committed that offense. And finally, in closing, I have one last case. Well, I have a couple more cases. They're not really notable. They're just kind of issues that I'm involved with. Not myself, anyways. Just one gentleman. I'm his power of attorney, so I'm attending his court, so I understand what happens with the case. Another case was, well, apparently this guy got arrested for a possession charge and resisting arrest, and this was that Jeremiah Robert Weed case. This gentleman, Jeremiah Robert Weed, I might have mentioned him before in a live stream on this channel, where I sat through a preliminary hearing on that case. Another OPD, in my opinion, screw-up job, said he was fleeing in a maroon Dodge and then tried to ram his vehicle into the cops, and then you get another officer on the stand and said, well, Your Honor, he came around the corner and he was in a bright red GMC. Well, which is it? Is it a maroon Dodge or a bright red GMC? That tells me all I need to know right there, that you did, do a good job. And then, of course, the man got Looney Rooney, who butchered his case and pretty much stole $10,000 in a retainer from him. Come trial, he declared a conflict and backed out. And, and the defendant, Mr. Weed, in court, turned around and said to me, I'm the only one in the audience, he said to me, this man is a joke. And evidently, unfortunately, I say unfortunate because I don't think he really wanted to. He didn't really have a choice after having so much time wasted. He took a plea deal and for a couple years, and he got out earlier. He was supposed to be released at the end of this year, but it appears he got released earlier. And unfortunately, I just happened to see that he caught a new charge. His name was on the board here at the Butte County Courthouse, and I sat in his court. He refused to come up to court. Then the next court hearing, they released him from the jail on either bail or his own recognizance due to overcrowding, and then he didn't come to the next court date. So from my understanding, there's still a warrant out for his arrest. So my advice to him was, if he's watching, I say take care of your business. I'll be there in court if I see, the name on the board. I haven't been really paying attention to the case because I just checked it the end of last week and they still haven't arrested you. So, on my other side would say, hey, stay out of Butte County. It's not doing you any favors. But if you do get arrested and you're watching this, I'll be there if I see a court date added. But it's not like they're going to notify me if they get you in custody. But I'll keep my eye on that case number. And then finally, the more notable case I should say I'm dealing with is earlier this year, June. For some of my Butte County residents and followers, had a case where a local public defender, former public defender, now she operates primarily private practice, was can't even talk, ladies and gentlemen, arrested for allegedly harboring a who happened to be her client/boyfriend. Now, I don't care if she's a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that is. People can have relationships and still maintain professional, level. They just want to throw that in there to make her look bad, as the district attorney likes to do. Basically this case boils down to the fact that these two people were on their way to court and they got pulled over and say, hey, he's a fugitive because he has a warrant. So we're arresting him. But we're not going to arrest you, but, 5 months later down the line, we're going to charge you with harboring, not 5 months, but a couple months later, we're going to charge you for harboring a fugitive. So, and then talking with her, come to find out that primarily this case, there we go, ladies and gentlemen, lost connection there for a second. I was noticing my thing was, no, I don't want to stop. I wanted to fix that freezing issue if I could. I noticed it froze again. Is basically because she wasn't going to be part of the public defender consortium anymore, which she didn't have a problem being, but the consortium left, and then the new head took over and said, hey, look, you got to stop getting your clients to go to trial and win their cases. We need you to get these guys to, take plea deals. And she said, no, I'm going to fight for my clients' rights, and if they're not guilty, we're going to trial. We're not going to take a plea deal. Basically, retaliation has been done against her because she's not going with the find them guilty way, if you will. And so now I've come into the case to basically, at some point, we're going to sit down and we're going to do an interview, and we're going to talk about all these misdeeds of retaliation that they've done against this woman to participate in the drunken pretender consortium of find them guilty and plead them out, when innocent people deserve their right to go to trial and not take a deal just because you don't want to do your job. So, and one more matter briefly is last month, well, not last month, it's the end of the month, it's almost November and it's getting my brain fuzzy, but towards the end of this month, I should say, a couple weeks ago, there was the matter of Kit Ford. For those who might have heard about it on the news here in Butte County, basically a guy doing some contracting fraud. The main thing was interesting is they say he ran out of the Butte County courthouse, ladies and gentlemen, while he was going to be taken into custody. And for those who know the courthouse, it's like, well, if you're in custody, you can't run out. And he wasn't in custody. But he was out of custody. This is a loony-rooney matter. Basically told him, do whatever you want. He left. They charged him with fleeing, not appearing, and gave him new charges. But, they made it seem like this whole thing of, well, he ran out of court. And I'm like, no one really runs out of court here. And investigating it more, the jury did find this guy guilty. So in regards to, oh man, battery. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see. So I know it'll be in limbo if I don't want it. There we go. Gentlemen, I didn't mean to get cut off right there. We had a little battery death, but I know an outlet around here that I can use and plug in we'll just hold it. I'll just hold it there and finish. Let's see. Will it stand? Yeah, that'll work. I'll just move that out of the way. Here. There we go, yeah. Here I can sit in, ladies and gentlemen. Great, and of course, now I got somebody on the phone calling me as this is happening, so I guess I'll just go ahead and end it. But basically what I wanted to say there briefly, ladies and gentlemen, is with that Mr. Ford matter, is even though they found the man guilty, the district attorney will freaking lie on guilty people to spin a narrative to make himself look good. Because, regardless of what this man's construction fraud issues, obviously there was some misconduct there for a jury of 12 people to find him guilty. But when I see a press release released by the district attorney's office saying that this man ran out of the courthouse, when the reality is that his worthless attorney, Michael Rooney, who will scam you out of thousands of dollars, evidently like he did to this man, regardless of his guilt that has been found upon him, and out almost $50,000 later, that the district attorney will still lie and spin a narrative to look good. Because the whole issue was that he asked in court for some time to talk to his attorney outside of court. The judge said, well, I don't want that because I feel that the defendant is going to flee the courthouse and not be remanded, because we might remand him into custody today for, it was and the reason they were going to remand him was for a charge of filing a false document with the courthouse, because at a previous court date he made a declaration saying that, well, I can't be here at this court date because I'm working here so-and-so, and that's why I can't be here, because I'd lose employment. Evidently, that employment that he was going to lose was not actually up to be lost, as he claimed to be, which was discussed in court, but that's why he was charged with filing a false document. And that's what that day was for, whether or not they were going to remand him for that charge. And so they stepped out of court. He talked to his attorney, Looney Rooney, and pretty much Looney Rooney said to the guy, which was communicated to me, not verbatim, but basically, Kip, you can do whatever you want. I don't know where you went. And basically gave this man negligent advice, which he should have just been just like, look, you're going to get remanded. I know you don't want to be remanded, but you're going to be remanded. And so the gentleman, Mr. Ford, there, believing, he'd be okay. That's the only reason I assume, and then two, it seemed like he didn't want to leave his dog out in the car, his vehicle. That another reason came to light that he had. They couldn't, just leave it. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that, Mr. Rooney, shouldn't have told you that, and then two, you should have just walked in. But the DA, that doesn't sound good. If we said, well, an attorney may have not given him some more good advice as to him returning to court, ladies and gentlemen, that just doesn't sound good. But if we put out a press release of this guy's face saying that he ran out of the courthouse and fled our custody, that's going to look so juicy. Well, the reality is this man didn't run. He actually made it a point on the record in court to say, no, I didn't run, actually. I walked all the way out, down the hallway, out the doors, and got in my truck and turned the car, and I just drove normally. I didn't peel out. I didn't burn rubber. I just left. But district attorney turned that into a narrative of, this man is on a fled. He fled our jurisdiction. He's on the run. So that's the last thing I wanted to communicate, ladies and gentlemen. Didn't want to do it in here in the jail lobby. It's kind of noisy, as you can hear, with the buzzer in the background of the door, and just not the best angle here sitting down at the charger, but my phone died and I wanted to finish the few minutes of the live stream, and plus I had to come back on here because the way YouTube works is that this live stream will be in limbo and just be, spinning and spinning like it's trying to load and reconnect. So, so I have to actually close it out and end it manually. It just doesn't stop because I lose power, which in my opinion is a good thing, because that tells me there's an ability that I can come back if something happens. But we went an hour. I didn't really want to go an hour, but we covered at least 7 cases with a wide variety of topics. So thank you all for tuning in. We got 10 likes. I know I saw Time to Stand, I think it was earlier. Yes, Time to Stand. Who was this other person? Bing 57, if I said that. Thank you for tuning in. I noticed there wasn't a lot of comments on this, and if anybody's watching now, feel free to leave a comment. But this is more of an update live stream than a commenting live stream of, like, per se, me filming something happening live. But hope you are all up to date, everybody, on those cases, following along my progress and my adventures. Hopefully, I hope to have Orville's body cam footage. I know I put out a trailer. That whole video should be here by the end of the month. I've given not the district attorney, but the city attorney plenty of time to get off his ass. Yes, his ass. And give me the remaining body cam footage of my ride down to the Butte County Jail. This actual jail, matter of fact, that I'm in right now, broadcasting to you live. In all fairness, a couple months ago at a council meeting, he did tell me that the editing company that he sent these videos off to has experienced a delay, because the only reason why I assumed they'd be sent off to an editing company is because they put me in the back of the car with another gentleman that was arrested on charges of disturbing the peace, which is why I showed up. That was the call that came out. And I can only assume they were editing his face out for privacy, because he's not the suspect of my arrest, if you will. So that's the only logical reason why I could see they sent that footage off to the editing company, because as you can see in the trailer, former Sergeant Sansone makes it a point to tell that officer, I want everything to the jail recorded on that body camera. No, so there's no leeway of him saying this is what happened. No. But evidently you're giving me that leeway to say, hey, this is what happened, because you're not providing me the body cam footage. You provided everything else to me except that one video. Why? So I've given him plenty of time to provide that. So by the end of this month here, I'm going to go ahead and release the full entire, about 20 minutes of body cam footage about that ride down to the jail, unless I get it. But if I don't, I'll make sure to mention that in the video and probably upload it as its separate video if I do ever receive it. But I sent him an email last week asking where my videos are at, and still haven't received a response back from him. So for those looking out for that, stay tuned. That's coming soon. I don't think I have any more cases. Yeah, I covered all the cases. I know I don't have any cases pertaining to myself. My tickets are up to date, if you will. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that body camage will be out soon. Hopefully before Halloween. By the end of the month for sure, I promise. But that's all update regards to the Butte County cases I've been following, as well as if you've been following or not following or looking to follow. That's the update. Thank you all again for tuning in. This has been the cameraman reporting live here in Oroville at the Butte County Courthouse and at the Butte County Jail.